the first time that I met Tom Terrill, he wasn't my boyfriend then. He came to my house for Halloween, for trick-or-treats with one of my best friends, Penny King, who's the daughter of Wayne King. Wayne King might not mean anything to future generations, but he was a band leader and the saxophone king. And is that what they called him, the saxophone king?
The Waltz King.
The Waltz King. And so Tom Terrill was out with Penny King. They came to our house, to the Getcho house, for trick-or-treat. And I happened to have all these people from my confirmation class down in the basement, or from my, I don't know what, small group or whatever you'd call it. And they were all different people, very odd people from New Trier. And I didn't want Penny or Tom to see these people. And Pearl Vance was a girl that would run around the house screaming and acting goofy, and she went and wanted to be locked in the dog cage, and I thought, this is awful, this is so embarrassing. And then as they leave, my brother Lee, upstairs from them, pours out water over their heads. And this was the first time Tom Terrill got to meet Grace Getcho.
We were anxious to get out of there.
And I thought, what did you do that for? These are my friends. And but Lee was always playing tricks on people, and much to my dismay, I was always embarrassed by what he was doing. And but he paid no attention to me at that time. So anyway, later we got to know each other our sophomore year in high school, or it was the summer of our freshman and sophomore year. And I had dated, or I got to know Tom O'Malley, and Tom O'Malley was somebody I really liked. And I asked him, I said, if you would like, why don't you come up to Appleton, Wisconsin and visit? We could go water skiing and boating and so forth. And he said, well, maybe I will. And I said, well, that would be great. Any time is fine as far as I know, but let me know when you're planning to come, because I didn't know if my parents would be having guests at that time.
Right.
So as it turned out, Tom O'Malley and I didn't hit it off too well, but Tom was coming up to...
Well, Grace, let me interject something.
Yeah.
Tom asked myself and Jack Peters and Ronnie Oyam, would we all go with him up to Appleton? And we all had the weekend free and said, sure, we'd be glad to go. And we took the train up, not realizing that the Getchos had no idea that we were coming.
Oh.
And so the four of us arrived in Appleton around 8 o'clock at night.
Oh.
And I had about $30 in my pocket, and this is 1948, and that was enough to get a $2 or $3 a night hotel room in Appleton and have a few meals. And all the other guys didn't have any money with them at all. And Tom, as we were arriving in the station, I can still picture him saying, I hate to tell you this, but they don't know we're coming. And I said, that's it. And I said, I took my suitcase, I said, I'm finding a hotel, and I'm going to get myself a bedroom, and if there's any money left over, if you guys don't have any, I'll share it with you. So we're walking down the middle of the street, and we come near this little shopping area. It's the downtown train station in Appleton, and there's a liquor store not far from where we are. And Lee Getcho jumps out of a car, who I happen to know from playing football, and says, Tom, what are you doing here? Because I don't know if he knew the others very well. And I said, well, actually, we're coming to visit you, but I just learned that you're not aware that we're coming. And so
Let
he
me
says,
interject.
okay.
So as they were walking down the street, I happened to see them, and I go, I see you. And I go, oh my gosh. And it's my dad's birthday, and that's why he stopped in the liquor store to get a bottle of scotch.
Oh.
And he's in the liquor store, and these guys are walking down the street. And I'm saying, oh, and with that, Lee jumps out,
Oh.
talks to you, and you continue on what you were saying.
Oh.
And then he gets back in the car while we're standing there for a minute, mentions the situation to your mother, and she says, we have room, nothing to stay. So we all got in the car, 4 of us.
Which was
It was
horrifying
It was
to
a
me.
1941 Cadillac 4-door car, and when her
That's a lot of
father,
people in one car.
her father
It
who
was
left
ridiculous.
with a family of 2 children and his wife and himself, suddenly finds 4 more people in the car when he gets back from
On his
the store.
birthday.
It was ridiculous. I think, I don't even remember where I sat. I'm sure I didn't sit on your lap, but
Oh my gosh. So you were horrified.
I was horrified.
Oh.
I thought, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do all weekend with these guys? I didn't know 4 of them would be coming. And so they all come up there, and they're all really nice guys. I had gone to grammar school with Jack Peters, and so I knew him. And the other 3 I knew from high school. And, but I didn't know them well. I didn't know really, other than I thought they were good looking and I liked them. And so they came up, and we, I think, ended up finding bedrooms for them and where they were and so forth. And then the boys said, let's go for a swim. And so they all donned their bathing suits and went out in the pier to go for a swim. And my mother said, aren't you going, sis? And I said, with the boys out in this pool? I mean, I said, I don't think so. She, oh, well, I think you should. They came up to see you. And I said, oh, well, okay. So I put my bathing suit on, and I took my towel, my bathing cap, we all wore bathing caps, and walked out on the pier. And they're all in the water, and I'm going, hi.
No, I happen to remember, I can still see it now, when Grace was walking on in this white 2-piece bathing suit, I said, wow. And that's when my interest really perked.
Oh, you're sweet, but I don't even remember, other than every time I'd walk out on the pier, one of them would throw me in the lake. And I was running out of clothes.
Oh
I thought
gosh.
they thought they were so cute.
Yeah.
And I thought, stop it, I don't want to go in the lake again. So anyway, you were up there the weekend, and Tom O'Malley listened to the Cub game, and I was bored, and Tom Terrill said, let's go sailing. And then we'd go out and pick raspberries out of and strawberries or something out of the patch. And then that night, we all went out and went to a carnival or something together, and when we got back, they said they were hungry. I said, oh, I'll fix you something to eat. And my dad used to get these cube steaks that were easy to fry, and I thought, what about a cube steak? And they all said, yeah, and they kept laughing. And I thought, what are they laughing at? And I opened up the refrigerator door, and I'm looking for the cube steaks,
She's getting this close to the
trying
product.
to find the cube steaks, and I see a toad.
The size of your fist.
Oh
They had
no.
put a toad in there to scare me.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, I went, ah! It was worse than the spiders.
Oh no.
And they all laughed, they thought that was so funny.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness.
I
Oh.
couldn't stand the fact that I was being so nice, planning to cook them something to eat.
Right.
Sure.
Right,
And then
it's-
they do that to me.
Boys
I
will be
think.
boys.
Yeah, exactly, so,
Particularly 4 boys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And one pretty girl.
You know, like,
yeah, exactly.
So, were you dating Tom O'Malley at the time?
No, we hadn't gone out on an official date. I seemed to like him and he seemed to like me.
Okay.
And we had never gone out on a date. And he was dating Nancy Grimm, a friend of mine,
Oh.
and he might have been coming over to ask me something about Nancy when he came to my house one night. So,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
I think you're jumping the gun. I think he was planning to spend more time with you, because that's what he had told me. and more or less indicated that he was very interested in you. And that's when he invited me to come up to visit you.
I see.
But what happened was, two of them didn't click. He's very much interested in baseball and not doing much with Grace.
Well, the thing that was really a clincher was when we went surfboarding and water skiing, and he fell, and he's a real tall guy, and he's going, "Help! Help!" And I'm looking at him like, "Swim!"
He's in by the 5th sandbar.
All he had to do was stand up, and the water, he finally did, and the water came up to here about on him.
That's funny.
And I thought, what a little goofy guy this is. I don't like him at all.
Well, did you have to have a conversation with him, Dad, about your interest in Mom?
No, I
Wasn't that
I
serious?
wasn't really interested in Grace at that time, before we went up to Appleton. I was dating someone else or something. I don't remember all the circumstances as I look back to 1948, but I liked Grace immediately. And this is on June 22nd, and on the 28th, I was on my way to Culver Military Academy for the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said to Grace, I'd like to write you. And she said, sure, I'll return the letters. And so we corresponded that summer, and we had our first date in September when I was back home and she was too.
Okay.
Yeah, September 3rd, we went to the Granada Theater and double dated with Dean Jackson, who is still alive, and Kay Lipscomb, who's not. And they were just dates that night, but they liked each other. And I do remember Dad holding my hand, and I got, in the movie, and I'm getting hot, cold. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know about
It must
this.
be love.
Must be. I thought he was so daring. On our first date, holding my hand.
Really?
I mean, how times have changed, I guess, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
gosh.
anyway, Appleton had lots of fun things that we enjoyed years later with our own family. And we also, I'd say, I'm trying to think, in Appleton, what else there was. Oh, well, my grandmother and grandfather would come up, and my grandparents would be lots of fun, because my grandfather pretended he didn't know how to swim. And so I said I'd teach him how to swim. So he'd go out and he'd play like he was drowning, and I'd save him and hold him up and say, now just kick your feet, you know. Take your arms and go like this. And then he really pretended like he didn't know how to swim, and I thought I was teaching him. And
Oh.
he up there also, Mickey Finney would come up, Mickey Passion, and when she came up there, we had paper dolls, because we were like in, I don't know, 6th grade or something, and we would sit behind these doors, and she'd be at one side of this front door, and I'd be at the other side. We'd have our paper dolls, and we'd put on an outfit on our paper doll, and my grandfather was the beauty contest judge, and we'd come out like this with our doll, and he'd select hers, and then I'd go back, and he'd select mine. And we did this, and he put up with us for a long time doing that with these dumb paper dolls that we had.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The summer homes, this was the time of polio in the 1930s and 1940s.
Yeah.
And you wanted to get out of population concentrations because it was thought that that's how the germ of polio was spread. And and you didn't want to go where the people and the beaches would all be again. So summer camps were being closed. I remember the Boy Scout camp at Chickawa was closed, not Chickawa, Makajuan. And so people who could afford it would get summer homes. And there were lakes all over Michigan and Wisconsin that you could easily have that. And also, we didn't have air conditioning. So the hot summers were not too attractive here in Chicago. So people would be getting their summer homes spend a couple $1,000s and they could have a house on a lake up in Wisconsin or Michigan.
But it was frightening to us at our age,
Yeah.
thinking that we could get polio, and we had a couple friends get
Who did?
polio.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
die.
oh.
Well, Bobby Corey, who grew up in Glencoe, she didn't die right away.
No,
She died,
she lived about 10 years.
yeah, later.
And yeah, I'm gonna say I had at least 4 friends that contracted polio in my class.
Wow.
They weren't serious, except for Bobby Corey, who was put in an iron lung and had to live in that for, I think, 9 or 10 years. She didn't go to college. She got her senior year in high school.
So that was a terrible blight,
Yeah.
I think, that happened.
Yeah.